Welcome to another marvelous episode of College Football Nation, hosted by me, Leverett KT, aka the Governor of College Football. And I am excited to talk to you all about some college football today. As promised, we are live, if you don't know, every Sunday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every Tuesday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and every Thursday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then, of course, the top of the week, we got a bunch of shows coming. Overreaction is going to be live Monday and Tuesday. And then also, we're working on an off-season project. We don't celebrate the off-season here, which means we don't honor it. We honor it by talking college football the entire off-season. And this is where we kick it up a notch. And shout out to you all, because you all have been holding it down. And it's truly been a blessing to see people commenting a lot more on the videos. We're getting a lot more ticks and watches on the videos, and people feel a certain type of way, and that's why we make the comment we make. We want you to feel a certain type of way about the content, and we truly appreciate it. So let's get into the transfer portal tracker. Make sure you guys stay up to date on all your transfer portal news by following at THECFB Nation on X or Twitter, whatever you like to call it. I still call it Twitter. Just make sure you're following that handle for all portal news. All of the news I'm giving you today is from today, and I got it off of CFB Nation because Nino makes sure we stay straight. Kansas State running back Gavin Garcia has entered the portal. He had 647 yards rushing this season, along with 3 touchdowns. North Texas, this is a big one. Their wide receiver entered the portal as well. Their running back Caleb Hawkins has entered the portal after a 1,400-yard season. Boise State safety Ty Benefield entered the transfer portal with 107 tackles and 2 interceptions. Maryland defensive back Lakai Rowland has entered the portal. He has 3 interceptions on the season. Troy defensive back Jaquez White has entered the portal with 3.5 tackle for losses, 11 pass breakups, and 3 interceptions on the season. And JMU edge Shahir West has 14. It's sad to see Ty Benefield leaving Boise State. He's going to be hard to replace. Brian, thank you for commenting on the video earlier. I'm brother, thank you. I love it. I love when people disagree. That's what college football is all about, the disagreements and being able to throw punches and stuff like that back and forth. You guys ready for the how you feeling, Brian, about the Pac-12 coming back alive? You think you guys are going to be ready for that in year one? I can't wait to go to Pac-12 Media Days. It's going to be fantastic, brother. I truly can't wait. So that's some of the latest portal news. Make sure you guys are following at the CFB Nation on Twitter. I promise you, we got you covered for all things portal. We have a lot to talk about tonight. Below me is my play clock. That's how much time I have on each segment. I only spend 3 minutes on each segment on this show. And then coming up next, you're excited for next season? Yeah, you should be. You should be. I can't wait to go to Pac-12 Media Days. We're going to cover that for you. We're going to be live from there. You just got to let us know who you want us to talk to, and we're going to talk to him, brother. All righty, let's talk about Kyle Whittingham. He was hired as Michigan's head coach, and I got a lot to say about this hire. First and foremost, shout out to my dog, D-Now, who called this 2 days before it actually happened. And to me, it came out of left field, but his explanation of it was like, hey, they need somebody that's going to kind of clean house. So when I look at this hire, to me, this isn't that traditional Michigan hire, in my opinion. To me, this hire really reminds me of, and I'm going to go somewhere here, so forgive me, but, him being named the Michigan coach after 21 great seasons at Utah, 177 and 88 was his record, almost a 70% win percentage. You get the feeling that Michigan really wants to clean up. They really want to clean house. They really want to figure out. I'll be looking forward to your pack meeting. Hey, bro, I'm telling you, bro. My dog Canes is in the building. Shout out, man. Brian and Canes. Y'all always holding it down. My first thought to this was, wow, what an outstanding job he did by saying, hey, I don't want to overstay my welcome. I'll go ahead and leave. And he said he's not done with coaching, but I was like, are you sure? It seems like you're kind of done with coaching. But this hire, I think, was a magnificent hire by Michigan, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't think he's going to be the guy. You look at a decade and a half, you look at the tenure that he had in Utah. I don't think that'll be his job. I think here at Michigan, it'll be to reset the standard, reestablish the standard of what it means to be a Michigan man. Because when you think of the last 5 years, yeah, they won a national championship, but it's been overcrowded by the Connor Stallion situation. We all remember Burgergate with Coach Harbaugh and the recruit, and he bought him a burger. It shouldn't have been an issue, but matter of fact, it was an issue, to be honest with you. And you just think about all of these things, everything that happened with Sharon Moore, everything that happened with the AD, how they held that news into their pocket for like 3 weeks because they were putting winning over everything. If they won, it might not have became a thing, but because they weren't able to make the playoff, I think it became a thing. So you look at everything that has happened over the course of the last 5 years, furthermore, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I think that's how we arrived here. That's how we have arrived at this spot where we're just looking at this program and say, yo, is this job still desirable? These are the conversations that we're having. Is this job still desirable, right? Like, who wants to stay there? Who wants to play there? Can Michigan still be elite? And the answer to all of that is yes, it is still desirable. They still can be elite, but I'm going to equate this to something that's familiar. You remember when Penn State had and Penn State's situation was far worse. Far worse. I hate to compare the two, but they were far worse. But Bill O'Brien came in as their bridge guy, and we think about the job that he was able to do, in Penn State. And he was, in my opinion, at that time, the only right guy for the job. So think about that situation. I think that's what Kyle Whittingham is going to do. I think he's going to establish a standard. I think these players will be held accountable. His staffers will be held accountable. And some of the actions that we've seen from staffers and coaches over the last 5 seasons or so, you're not going to get that with Kyle Whittingham. So I think it's an outstanding hire. Speaking of which, reportedly, this thing is alleged. It hasn't come out just yet, but reportedly BYU's defensive coordinator, and they've played outstanding defense over the course of the last 2 seasons. Reportedly, Kyle Whittingham and Jay Hill has a deal in place for him to come there and be his defensive coordinator. I think when you look at it, to me, it exemplifies a few things. One, Jay Hill's an outstanding defensive coordinator. Make no mistake about it. But 2, these are Big 12 roots. Deep rooted in the Big 12, and I think Kyle Whittingham's going to try to bring that Big 12 swagger to Michigan. I hope what that means is, Michigan is able to go get some guys in the transfer portal. Maybe they are able to get a quarterback. And also, we don't even know what's going on with Bryce Underwood, because reportedly Kyle Whittingham and Bryce Underwood have had some positive conversations. So we have to see what that looked like. One of the questions I was talking to Jalen Amon earlier, I was like, yo, how much poaching happens? If Jay Hill does become the defense coordinator at Michigan with Kyle Whittingham, then that's a stronghold over BYU and Utah. Maybe they're able to poach and tamper and get some of those players to come here. Also, later on, I'm having a mailbag segment. That'll be the last segment of the show. Probably roughly about 27 minutes in. Hopefully, if I'm able to stay on time. So whatever y'all want to talk about in the chat, we can talk about. That'll be the last segment. Whatever y'all want to talk about, we can talk about. Y'all can put them in here now, and I'll remember to scroll up, and then we can talk about it later. But I think Jay Hill, outstanding hire if this does indeed happen. I think when you look at what Whittingham's trying to do, he's going to develop a staff of great integrity. He is truly trying to put together a program that's built on a standard, and I don't know what that looks like from a winning percentage perspective, because at Michigan, especially on a gridiron, you're expected to win. But at least from a staffer perspective, some of the negative press they've been getting as of late, you're going to get a guy who's going to run a really clean house. And this hiring of Jay Hill should certainly help that bill when we think about it. I really hope that this is true, that they do get Jay Hill. And like I said, this should be very interesting. Let's go ahead and move on to our next segment. Dabo, what's wrong? That's kind of been the title segment. We're going to talk about Clemson a little bit here. For later, let's talk about the G5 conference's outlook for next season. That's a bet, Brian. I'm always down to talk about that. So, Dabo Swinney, what's wrong? I previewed the Pinstripe Bowl, and granted, I only get 3 minutes when I preview versus on Governor College Football. I'll spend 15 to 20 minutes on one segment just because it's an hour show and I do less topics. But on this one, I wanted to kind of be fast-paced, give you the pardon the interruption vibes, just at the collegiate level. But I have these questions for Dabo, and the reason being I have these questions for Dabo, and it's really for a myriad of reasons. One, entering this year, they had the highest return on production, right? At like 85%, it was out of this world. Everything just seemed to be in place from an offensive perspective, from a defensive perspective. You look at the pieces that they had on their team, you just said, hey, coming into this season, if Clemson can do anything, like they were even talking about like a 15-0 type of ordeal. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they were going to go 15-0. Like those were the talks heading into the season, right? But then you get humbled a little bit. So to finish the season this year after the bowl loss to Penn State at 7-6, there's some readjustments that need to be done. I think when you look at the teams that are in the playoff right now that are successful, there's only like maybe Georgia and maybe one other program that built their program primarily through recruits. But a lot of these programs, Indiana, Texas Tech, they built their program via the portal. And in Dabo's case, he's going to have to start using the portal. He's going to have to start using the portal. Like, make no mistake about it. He's going to have to start using the portal. And I don't think it'll be one of those things where it's by choice. I think in the actuality, it'll be by force. Because we've seen him have a great developed team. Like, he develops. His players graduate. Like, Dabo does an outstanding job. Make no mistake about it. I think they had the highest GPA of all FBS teams, right? And you look at what he's able to do, how they're able to nurture, how some of these kids stayed in 4 and 5 years. Yes, that's fantastic. But there's positions of need. Like, we can go back to 2023 when Florida State was able to take over the ACC. I think when you look at that season, they needed help on the outside. Well, there was a guy in East Lansing by the name of Keon Coleman who they could have got via the transfer portal. Instead, he goes to Tallahassee, and guess who ends up winning the ACC that year? It was Florida State, and Keon Coleman made some big plays in Death Valley versus Clemson that year as well. So coming into this year, the only thing we had an issue with as it pertained to Clemson was the running back. We thought, okay, this kid Gideon Davis, we heard in winter workouts things were going well. We heard in spring camp things were going well. We heard in summer workouts things were going well. In fall camp, it was like things were going well, and Adam Randall ends up getting the job. And that's no disrespect to Adam Randall. We was just thinking if there's a place that you can nitpick on this Clemson roster is the running back position. And not that he didn't address it, because he probably figured he had some guys. They also lost a kid, I forgot his name, who ended up withdrawing, and with the Liberty, I think he withdrew from there as well. Things didn't quite work out. So my question to Dabo Swinney is, what direction are you going? Because you're going to lose some pieces via the NFL draft. I'm not sure how many pieces they'll lose via the portal, but are you going to get active via the portal? And will it be by choice or will it be by force? Let's go ahead and move along. We're going to talk about Nick Sheridan, and this is a hire that I love. We know Pat Fitzgerald is now in the guy at the helm at East Lansing, and I believe that Pat Fitzgerald deserves Requiem. The way he was treated instantly by everyone, by the people in media, by the people probably in the Northwestern area, just by everyone. He was just deemed as guilty. And we know in sports and basketball, the point guard is typically the fall guy, unless you have a stud big man. But typically the point guard is the fall guy. In football, the quarterback is a fall guy. And also your head coach is the fall guy. A lot of times we get the blaming coaches or getting the blame coordinator. So for that Pat Fitzgerald situation, before even he was given his due diligence, before people did their proper research, it was, oh, nah, like, you allowed this? This happened right under your nose. Why did this happen? But anyway, we're going to move forward for that. I'm so happy for Pat Fitzgerald and Michigan State. They one hell of a job in their hire. Nick Sheridan, I think it's really interesting when we look at everything with Nick Sheridan. We look at 2024, the year he was the offensive coordinator down in Tuscaloosa for Alabama. We saw spots like the Oklahoma game that they really struggled. The Vandy game, you wish they put up more points, but they did put up some points against Vandy. The Tennessee game was another game where you wish they put up more points. But then you also had the performance in Baton Rouge, like where Jalen Milroe just went nuclear. So what does that look like? What type of quarterback are they going to want to run their system? And I look at this Nick Sheridan move to East Lansing, almost the reverse of, even though Nick Saban was a head coach, but it's almost the reverse of Nick Saban, where, Nick Saban was coaching in East Lansing, and then he ended up in Tuscaloosa, I believe, after an NFL stint. So I like this hire. I just wonder how they planned on building this roster. We know Aiden Childs has entered the transfer portal. We know Nick Marsh, their stud wide receiver, has entered the transfer portal. Are they going to try to retain any of those players, or are they just going to get active in the portal? What does the brass look like? What does the donors and the boosters look like? Are they going to be able to have the finances to be able to compete in the Big Ten? Because this year we've seen some teams have some really good years, and not a lot of money was spent. But, USC, in my opinion, had a really good year this past year. I think you look at a team like Iowa, they seem to always have good years. And, even though I thought they had their guy and Gronowski at quarterback, they struggled heavily offensively. But Phil Parker and company, they lost a lot of production these past couple of years on defense. But Phil Parker just has that defense playing. So what does that look like for East Lansing? I'm one of those that believe, if you don't believe it at the collegiate level, at least at the Big Ten level, I missed the days where, Michigan State were relevant. I really wanted things to work out for Jonathan Smith and Aiden Childs and East Lansing. I'm just wondering what's their approach now. They got the new offensive coordinator, a guy, yes, at times we've seen him struggle, but at times we also seen him have the ability to put up some points. So I'm super excited for Nick Sheridan and super excited for Pastor Fitzgerald. Let's see how they moving forward. Our next segment, we're going to talk about Arch Manning a little bit, and I think I want to be really honest here. Now, I just want to have a candid conversation with you all. And later on, don't forget mailbag from chat. So far, we're talking about G5 conferences outlook next season. I think that is spectacular because the G5 is about to get poached and tampered to hell with. So you agree on a Michigan State comment? I miss the days when they were relevant. 100%. Brian, you get it 100%. I really miss when they were relevant. Arch Manning this season, I think we had a situation where it was like the movie 500 Days of Summer. Expectations versus reality, where they had a montage of what the main character, the guy, what he expected from the girl Summer in the movie, but those were his expectations. But here was what aptly happened. So it was like expectations versus reality. Well, Arch Manning, I believe the media was so fringe and thinking, hey, we think he has a higher upside than Quinn Ewers, and they were crowning him before he even played serious downs as a starting quarterback. In my opinion, he played outstanding this year. But you ask, a lot of other people, he didn't play that well this year. But I look at him, hey, some of the onus is on him for why Texas didn't meet their criteria, their excellence of being in a college football playoff. Some of the onus is on that offensive line, and some of the onus is on that running game. You see both, Wisner and C.J. Baxter both have entered the portal. And their inability after Jadon Blue and Trey Wisner had so much success in 2024, it was just weird to me. But their inability to run the ball, and also the last part of the onus, if we look for accountability or we look to place blame, is on Steve Sarkisian, because there were some games that the defensive coordinator was able to get ahead of him, and we saw it versus Ohio State. Like it or not, Matt Patricia was ahead of him. We also saw it in the first half versus Mississippi State. In the second half, he was able to figure it out. So I also felt that way with the Georgia game as well. So I think if we look at Arch Manning, we look at his season, I think he had 24 passing touchdowns, another 8. That's 32 total touchdowns. I think his QBR was somewhere around 70. I'm not a QBR guy. I know some people are. I think he had a pretty good season, and the reason we're talking about him mainly is because he will be returning to Austin next season. I'm telling everybody, look the hell out. Hopefully, Texas get aggressive in this portal. They need to get extremely aggressive in this portal. They need to be willing to spend money. I said this on the last episode. I think this is the deepest portal we've ever had. And I'm willing to say it's not even close. It's not fair because we don't have the late window portal that we've had as of recent. But I think Arch Manning played pretty fantastic this year. Are there throws he'd like to have back? We couldn't figure out what was going on with his shoulder earlier in the season, but I'm comfortable with where he is, and I expect him to really start next season. Let's talk about some of these SEC struggles. I thought it was a smooth transition going from the Arch Manning subject to these SEC struggles. What's going on, SEC? We see you get, Texas A&M got first rounded versus Miami. Shout out to my dog Canes. Shout out to all the Canes fans. My dog D-Now is in the building. Shout out D-Now, man. Hopefully Arch matures as a passer during the offseason. I would agree with that, Brian. I think some of it's, like I said, it's on him. They need to have the ability to run the ball next season. And then I think also next season with Arch Manning, he needs to be able to be comfortable running the ball. Because we saw it in spurts against Texas A&M where he would take off and make plays. So he need to be more comfortable with that. My dog D-Now in the building. D-Now, I shouted you out earlier that you had called Kyle Whittingham 2 days before it actually even happened. But SEC, they've been struggling a little bit. To be completely transparent with everybody, I talked about Miami Hurricanes going into College Station and them only being able, Texas A&M being them, only able to muster up 3 points at home, to me, was a pitiful showing. And the only thing that saved that weekend was Johnny Manziel not showing up to College game day, so we didn't talk about it as much. We look at UVA, was able to beat Missouri in their bowl game this past weekend. Also, Houston, Connor Wegman and them cooked against LSU. So I think when you start to look at that, yes, and that's what we're starting to get at. So I got an open-ended question for all of you all to think about in the chat. Is the SEC overrated, or has NIL and the transfer portal brought a little bit of parity in college football? Because you remember back in the day, it used to be like the big bad SEC. Like, you used to be afraid of the SEC. I don't see that no more. And, when I look at this year's college football playoff, yes, we respect Georgia. Yes, we respect Ole Miss. But I think those Big Ten teams are a little bit scarier. And Texas Tech can be scary as well if they can, get things together and finish in the red zone. So it's a little bit of both, you think, Brian? So, yeah, that was one of the things I was wondering is, are people just no longer afraid of the SEC? Or has parity caught up, with this NIL era, and they just couldn't, because back in the day, you could stockpile recruits, and if they wanted to transfer, they had to have a redshirt year. So a lot of times they just dealt with what they had to deal with, even if that meant not seeing the field until your, late sophomore or your junior year, and you're pretty much playing scout team the first couple of years. Now it's like, I'm not about to sit here buried on this bench. I'm going to go down the street where I can get adequate playing time, and hopefully we can figure this thing out. So, yeah, it was just interesting to see. I tell you, Connor Wegman and Willie Fritz and them at Houston got an interesting thing, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But I would like to play a game with you all now. It's called Best Fits. NIL has affected it, but I was telling you the SEC was mid-level when Big Ten and Pac-12 ruled college football. I would agree with that. I would agree with that 100% because you had who? Yeah, and the Big 8 was relevant too because you had Nebraska, who was damn good. You're right. So the SEC was mid-level. Notre Dame definitely had their years. USC was outstanding in the 70s. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%. It was just, I think, the Southern love for college football, the push, the money that they have down there, they was able to bring this to the forefront. But I think there's a little bit more parity. But, let Greg Sankey and company tell it, It's been real interesting. I can't wait to see what the rest of these bowl games look like and see how well the SEC fares with them. All right, let's play a game. Let's talk about some best fits. I'm going to name a player. You tell me their best fit, and then I'll give you my idea of their best fit. So we played this game before. I got 3 players. Let's start with Trey Wisner. Trey Wisner, former running back, Texas, has entered the portal. Great, outstanding 2024 season. He was in many people's top 5 running backs headed into this season. What happened, I'm unsure. Not sure if it was an offensive line issue. Not sure it was their inability to stretch the ball downfield. I'm not sure if it was a play calling issue, but they struggled to run the ball this year. So where do you guys think some good fits would be for Trey Wisner? That's our first player. You comment in the chat, and I'll shout you out to make sure I mention it on the episode. Also, send him to Oregon? Yes. That was one of the conversations I had earlier about Trey Wisner going to Oregon. All right, let's talk about Eugene Wilson, stud wide receiver from Florida. Florida was just a mess this year. I was really disappointed in the outcome and the output from Florida this year. Eugene Wilson, rightfully so, enters the portal. What do you guys feel like it'll be a good fit for Eugene Wilson? And the other guy, we've talked about it before, but I haven't talked about it on this show, is Dylan Raiola. What do you guys think Dylan Raiola will go? So I want to give you guys a head start before I get into where I think. Trey Wisner, if I could tell you a place to go, this is going to sound weird. So I would say either the Big 12 or there's a place that you can go. This is a dark place, brother. But come here, listen to me. Oklahoma is going to retain and return some production heading into next season. Their missing link this year was the ability to run the rock consistently. Trey Wisner, I know you played in the Red River Rivalry, and I know you've played on the opposite side of the Red River Rivalry, but I'm telling you, if you and Oklahoma can agree on the scheme and can agree on where send him to Oklahoma, you know what, Brian, I'm actually going to go there with Eugene Wilson. I think he should go to Oregon. I agree with that 100%. Trey Wisner, I would convince him to go to Oklahoma. I think there's a need there. I think they're a budding team. They truly need running back one, in my opinion. So I would send Trey Wisner to Oklahoma. Eugene Wilson, Oregon. I love that. I love that fit. And then Dylan Raiola, I think we get a couple of things with Dylan Raiola. You get the mindset of, how much would he be trying to be like Patrick Mahomes if he did go to Texas Tech? But I think, Texas Tech got to figure out, what they're doing next year at quarterback. Is Hammond their guy? I believe he has another year eligibility. I would expect Baron Morton. I think this is his senior season, so he would have to go pro either way. So, yes, I can see a need for Dylan Raiola there. Miami would be interesting with Dylan Raiola as well. I can see him in Shannon Dawson's scheme, and it would be interesting to see how successful he can be in that scheme. So that's our best fits. This is something we're going to continue throughout the offseason. I'll pick 3 players. We'll talk about them. And Boom. Let's talk about the Big 12 outlook heading into next year. It's a lot to like about the Big 12. I've told you guys this before. I tell you again, even though the Americans stole the show for me this past season, but Big 12 is probably pound for pound my favorite conference. One, the exciting ball you're going to get. It's offensive oriented. It's quarterback oriented. And this year, we got to see some outstanding guys. Noah Fafita, welcome back to the spotlight. We saw him have that stud. I think it was his redshirt freshman year back in 2023. Huge disappointment back in 2024. And we couldn't really figure out what was going on. But this year, welcome back. They got a bowl game coming up. I forgot who it was against. I just seen a commercial for it. But what does Arizona look like next year? How active they going to get in the portal? And the first thing that I will say to each and everybody with the Big 12 is that we saw last year. We saw Arizona State, you know what I'm saying, come out of nowhere. They were ranked dead last in the media poll, which I was a part of, by the way. And they didn't even do the media poll this year, which is hilarious. Then we saw upstart BYU last year. Colorado had a pretty decent regular season. I believe they were 9-3, but a terrible loss. The American Conference only looked good because of how bad BSU did this season. Next season, though, that changes. I would have to favor the Pac-12 and what they'll be able to do next season. Pac-12 is going to be interesting. I can't wait to go to their media days. So we've seen kind of different type of seasons. Last year, Utah wasn't very good at all. This year, Utah was pushing both BYU and Texas Tech for that first spot in the Big 12. So when I look at the Big 12 and I look at it for next season, anybody has a chance. We've seen a team like Texas Tech. Last year couldn't play defense at all. They got active in the portal, fixed that side of the ball, and now they're having some of the successes that they want to have. I think that is super important when you start to look at how you build a team and roster construction. And it's funny because I used to look at the transfer portal not necessarily as a bad thing, but if I'm building a team, I would prefer to build it recruit, like this is back in the day, 85%, transfer portal 15%, picking little things that we need. But now with so much poaching and so many players entering the transfer portal, I look at the transfer portal that, hey, sometimes this is necessary evil. If you in your first year of coaching, those players on your team aren't your players, and they aren't going to be your players for a little while until you develop them. Those first couple of years, like Indiana is heavy portal. They're heavy transfer portal, but that's the first couple of years how you build your team via the portal so you can compete now, but also compete later with getting those recruits, develop them, show them that, hey, you can win here, and show them the way that you want to play. So I look at a team like Houston next year, right? If they can retain Connor Wegman, they need a few more pieces. They really do need a few more pieces defensively as a team that can compete. They showed they could compete this year. Arizona is another team that has an outstanding opportunity. So my outlook for the Big 12 is bright as ever. We should really get some good quarterbacks heading into next year per usual. But if Connor Wegman stays, H-Town get more talent for him. Look out. And so last but not least, we have our mailbag from chat. My dog Brian is going to steer this one. He says he would like to talk about G6 conference outlook next year. So we got a lot of moving pieces. A lot of coaches from the American were poached. We had Ryan Silverfield, who was at Memphis. He's now at Arkansas. We have John Summerall, who's at Tulane. He's now at Florida. We have there was one more that went to the SEC. Was it? No, I'm bugging. Am I bugging? Then we had, Eric Morris. He's not in the SEC, but he went and took the job at Oklahoma State. Just a lot of moving pieces, and the fact that you bring the Pac into the equation, it's going to be really interesting next year. Brian, talk to me. How well do you feel about Boise State heading into next year? Talk to me, brother. How well you feel about Boise State next year? It's going to be interesting. How well do you feel about the Pac? Also, have I ever got your opinion on a G8 playoff? My dog Jalen in the building. What's good with you, brother? Talk to me. But I think that G6 is going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting because a lot of the teams who kind of look forward to playing those SEC teams, who got big paydays for playing those SEC teams that help kind of fund some of the athletic the American lost his best coaches this season. Yeah, it definitely did. So, how will the Mountain West fare next year? What does the Mountain West versus Pac look like? And I know there has to be beef. you know, between the Mountain West and Pac. But I can't wait to see what the G6 looks like this year, next year. And it's sad that the G6, G5, whatever you want to call it, it's G6 moving forward. That they put out so much talent that each and every year it just kind of get a boo. Alex Golish to Auburn. Thank you, 803 Tonio. That's what I forgot. I forgot Alex Golish to Auburn. Yeah, he was the other American coach that was that was sent to the SEC. Yeah, it was definitely Alex Golish. I'm interested to see how he fares there too. Nah, just got done doing mini games on the PlayStation 5. Okay. The G6 will be dominated by the Pac conference immediately. Y'all agree with that? I mean, because I look at the MAC and I say they can't compete. I look at the Sun Belt. It depends. I just don't know if the conference is deep enough. But JMU will be right there in the thick of things for sure. Billy Napier will do the work and he will get people in the building. The American lost so much, man. The American lost so much. They lost a lot. So the Mountain West will contend. UNLV will take up, where Boise left off. It depends, though. I don't know if you saw the tweet by Jaden, Jet Thomas. He may transfer. I don't know if that's the vibes y'all got. I'm not sure if y'all saw the tweet. I wish I could pull the tweet up. But he looked like he may transfer based off that. But yeah, Mountain West will be up there. If I had to rank them, I would go Pac to Mountain. Well, go Pac to Mountain West. Yeah, because Conference USA, like, it's just such it's a bunch of new teams in that conference. So it's difficult to say what they'll be. MAC is kind of, you look at the MAC this past year, it was a bunch of teams that were middle of the road. You know what I'm saying? Had no clue who was going to end up in Detroit. And shout out to Western Michigan for winning the conference. You say based off two things. The first is the coaches in the PAC conference picked up this season. Yes, mainly Washington State hiring Kirby Moore. Outstanding hire for Washington State. Outstanding hire. Hope he brings that high-octane offense to Auburn like when they had. Yes. I think he will. You look at Tennessee's success, and I'm not a huge fan of the veer and shoot, but it does create a lot of problems. If he can get Byron Brown, a guy that knows the system and understands the system, while he can hit the recruiting trail between January 2nd and 16th, we know they'll be hitting the recruiting trail before then. I think it'll be interesting. Secondly, Boise State dominated all G5 teams in recruiting this year. That's a fact. I remember you was talking during early signing day, saying how dominant Boise State were. Who's gonna be your quarterback next year, Brian? That's what I wonder. Because I know your current quarterback you're not a fan of, but I think he does have some eligibility left. For everybody that's currently watching this show live, we're doing a mailbag. Anything you want to talk about college football related, drop it, and we just going to talk. Kirby Moore already hired Brent, defense coordinator, hired Matt Miller from Boise State as offensive coordinator. Fantastic. My bad. I keep peeping off at this Bills game, seeing what's going on. I'm so disappointed in him. I'm glad I had the show scheduled because if I had watched this game, I'd have popped the blood vessel. Quarterback next season will hopefully be either Cash Herrera or Jackson Taylor. Okay. I know Brian can't wait for next season. I can't wait to go to Pac-12 Media Days. I'm sorry, ACC Media Days. I probably won't be there. I'll definitely be at Big 12s because they kick it off. It's earlier in the month. I'll be there. American, of course, I'm going to be there, but I can't wait to go to Pac-12 Media. I can't just wait to see what the vibes is like. I just can't wait to see that. And I already know you're done with Maddox Madsen. How tall is he? Like, Maddox Madsen, isn't he like 5'9"? Or is he taller than that? Not bucket. I feel like he's like 5'9". I feel like he's legitimately like 5'9". Matter of fact, let me look it up. But these heights be lying. That's why I love the first day of Senior Bowl. We start figuring out people's true heights. Whew, it'd be hilarious. He's listed at 5'10". Yeah, he ain't 5'10". 5'9", 5'10". Yeah. Who y'all favorite to win it all in the playoff before we get out of here? Nah, he's definitely he's not 6 feet, bro. He's definitely not 6 feet. Both Herrera and Taylor are over 6'1". That's a bet. All right, man. I'm going to get out of here. I'll be live again. We'll be live again tomorrow for Overreaction Monday. Also, on Tuesday night for Overreaction Monday, I'll bring this show back, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You saying Ohio State repeats, and then you got Texas Tech. Hey, that's a bet, man. As I always like to say, there's no more victories in the sport that survive in the fastest while college football has the greatest regular season. Until next time, you all take care. Shout out to Kane, shout out to Brian, shout out to Jalen, shout out to D-Now, shout out to everybody who always come through. Shout out to 803 Tonio. Listen, we love it. Make sure y'all here, man. Y'all stay tuned. Y'all take care.